BetOnline is your number one source for the NBA and NHL playoffs this season. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 15 L slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Don't forget to use promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline. The game starts here.
And we are back with another episode of the Bleed Los podcast, the weekly rewind edition of the show. And the Dodgers have been playing really good baseball over the last 6 games on this little 3-game homestand and closing out their road trip in New York. We talked about it in the live earlier last week about the Mets series. Obviously, the Mets take care of business up there, taking all 3 games, taking that doubleheader, come from behind victory, and then ending up just taking the rest of the series there. You know, they win game 1 5-2 in 10 innings. They win game 3 3-0, and then they win game 3. Offense explodes for 10 runs in that game. They move back to LA for a short 3-game homestand before they're off back to the East Coast again. And me and Mike Salas are recording this shortly after the series win today over the Colorado Rockies in 3 games. They lose the first game of the series, shaky start from Buehler, but they ended up rebounding, with the pitching, and they got just enough runs in these last 2 games, 8 runs combined, but they only allowed 1 run. So that's going to get the job done every single time. And like I said, I already introduced his name here, but we are joined by fellow Dodgers beat contributor Mike Salas. So it's great to have you on and get some more insight from the website. So Mike, pivoting, back to the Mets series, which we won't go too in-depth on since we talked about on the live this past week. So if anyone missed that, you can go ahead and check that out now. That's on our channel. But the Dodgers were kind of reeling. They were losing 5 in a row. They head to New York. The Mets were also playing extremely poor. They were winners of only 10 games in their last 30 games. So to say that the Dodgers kind of lucked out in the schedule to go and try to rebound against the struggling squad, I would say they came out of New York all right. Wouldn't you agree?
Totally agree. I think all Dodger fans were kind of hoping for that scenario with the Dodgers coming in, to the Mets series, struggling a little bit. The bats unable to hit, especially unable to hit with runners in scoring position. Real inconsistent batting that's going on, and then going to New York and doing what they did. So I think it was a good thing. So yeah, I'm real happy with that. And then they said that with the controversy or whatever it is with the plane being stuck on the tarmac for so long, for like 7 hours or whatever it was, and that kind of contributed to the first game of the Rocky series. I don't know how much I believe in that, but no, I was happy, and just like you said, people are interested, go back to our Dodgers beat and go back to the recap that we write, on every game, and get updated that way also.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the tarmac thing, because I see a lot of fans, they kind of complain, like, oh, these $1 million athletes, they get, paid, this much to complain about a loss. But I've only been on a plane a handful of times, varying terms of like length of delay or length of flight, and I hated it each time. So I can only imagine, no matter how much money you're making, it probably is a factor, especially with the hours difference. But the Dodgers are never going to say that as an excuse. So losing that first game to the Rockies is inexcusable in my mind. The offense just didn't work out. But in this Mets series, everything seemed to click once, the second half of that game 1 of the doubleheader. The Dodgers start to get, a rally going, and then out of nowhere, Mike, they play small ball. I know you're one of these guys that's preached for it. Chris Taylor, who's obviously, chomping at the bit. He's been struggling all season. He makes the sacrifice to do a bunt, a suicide squeeze, and then due to the error by Adam Ottavino, he's able to reach base safely and tie the game up. So how big was that, just kind of, for a Dodgers? We're only asking the bottom of the order to be role players, and that's either getting on base or moving up the runners. But Chris Taylor, like, how excited were you that, he dropped the bunt out of the blue?
That was good to see. Like you said, I'm a big advocate for the small ball. I don't think the Dodgers do that enough. I think the bottom of the order, just like you said, I mean that's their role, is to be able to move runners, to be able to get singles, get doubles, if possible, move runners around for, hopefully Mookie Betts or Shohei or Freddie Freeman can knock them in, and start moving runners around, with some authority. But no, it was really good to see, Chris Taylor lay that bunt down and, and get that spark going and, you know, and getting the game going. I think it's not just this year. I think it's been many years, Dodger fans have been like, calling for that, for a little bit of small ball and, changing the game up a little bit, when things aren't working. And this series, with the Rockies, I'm sure we're going to get into, is a perfect example of that, and I got some examples, for that also.
Yeah,
And also it was good to see Pajes start to get going again also.
yeah, I think the Dodgers are starting to see some things click. The Mets series particularly, they definitely needed. If they needed to sweep anybody to kind of boost morale, it was definitely against the Mets. And
Mhm.
to bring that to it's only a 3-game homestand, which is weird. Whoever's making the schedule this year for the
Right.
league, before they send the Dodgers back on the East Coast, but these are games that they should be winning. They should be beating teams like the Mets who are struggling. They should be beating teams like the Rockies. So taking 5 out of 6, these are still major league teams. This is still we're entering June now. We're getting close to July and the trade deadline. We're starting to see what teams are in, what teams are out, and the Dodgers. Obviously, we know they are contenders. They want to, they're going to need to add pieces, especially from some other topics we'll talk about later this episode, to, fill out the lineup. And, that first game in Colorado, it just seemed like nothing really went right. Walker Buehler wasn't 100%. The offense just seemed like it went back to being flat, like it was majority of, in the Red series and then the start of the Mets series. And that's a little concerning. But to see Andy Pajes start to hit again, to see my big one this whole season, who I feel like is just being extremely undervalued, is Miguel Rojas. This guy
Oh yeah,
seems
yeah.
like he is just. I think the Dodgers are putting him in the best position to succeed, and it was what their plan was originally last year. But Gavin Lux's injury kind of made them had to give him a starting role where he's starting like 140 games. It's not like that this year. He's starting specifically against left-handed pitching, specifically coming in late in the games as a defensive replacement. So it wouldn't be shocking to me, say the Dodgers don't acquire somebody at the deadline to play shortstop full time, if you see Miguel Rojas actually get the start over someone like Gavin Lux at second base majority of the time. Because I think right now, his bat is definitely proving it, and it's definitely going to force the Dodgers' hand, and that's kind of been the theme this season so far. Andy Pa has forced the Dodgers' hand to keep him on the roster. I've been advocating, Gavin Stone's pretty much forced the Dodgers' hand to keep him on the starting
Hmm.
rotation. But even just looking at games when Rojas makes an appearance, the Dodgers are 25-10, and when he makes
Right.
the start, he's 17. They're 17-8, and he is literally putting life into the bottom of that lineup. And I think that's something the Dodgers need. You have to ride the hot hand no matter what part of the season you're in. And I just think eventually this guy is probably going to earn more playing time. It just, for me, it depends on when.
Oh, I completely agree. And another stat, that I heard today was, you know, they're undefeated when he gets a hit and hits somebody in. And that I think today's game was like 14 games in a row. To where Miguel Rojas, when he gets a single and he drives a run in, the Dodgers are doing very well. You look up the stats on Rojas, and then you look up the stat and compare it to Chris Taylor. You know, he's hitting way better than him. I mean, look at the stats on Austin Barnes and Chris Taylor. You know, that's crazy. For a lot of people to hear about is like Austin Barnes is hitting way better than Chris Taylor is right now. And his batting average is not the greatest, but it's still a lot better than Chris Taylor's. So it was good to see Austin Barnes get some hits this series also, especially today. He went, what was it, 2 for 3, two singles, and moving runners around. And that's what, and, just like we were talking about earlier, that's what Dodger fans want to see.
And I think the last, kind of two things that I want to put together before we move on to, previewing, this
Hmm.
next two series is the pitching. And, Walker Bueller, he seemed very adamant that it wasn't a good start. Like he just seemed frustrated after it. Like we've seen the velocity and the stuff is still there. Is are you worried that he is not 100% yet and that you expect him to get there by the end of the season, or are you kind of off the butane train?
I'm not worried about Walker Bueller one bit at all. He's just coming off of surgery. He needs to get his command back. He needs to get the control back. He needs to be able to, place his pitches where he wants to. He's showing that has some velocity that's left in his arm, that's there. I have no worries in regards to Walker Bueller. I think we're going to see a different Walker Bueller come October, and people are going to go, wow, okay, you got to give the guy time. He just got back from being off for over a year. He's not going to come right back in and go right into the lineup and start throwing 98 miles an hour, with 10 strikeouts a game and throwing a no hitter and this and that. He's going to struggle, and it's the same thing, that people need to think about when Bobby Miller comes back. He's going to struggle, when they first come back. It's not going to come back, right away. I mean, look at Bobby Miller. I've been watching him, when he's made his starts with the Quakes. He's not doing all that great. His command is off. His velocity is up, is still there, but his placement of pitches is not there. When he throws a slider and he throws his curves, they're not hitting in the spots that he wants. And so I think he's going to struggle also. But that's their mentality. When they get back into the majors, they turn it up and they knock it into another gear. And they just like going, okay, I'm back up here in the show. I need to start proving myself. And I think, like I said, I don't have any problems with Walker Buehler at all. I'm not going to have any problems with Kershaw either.
Yeah, I am one of those guys that I look at Bueller and I look at what he's gone through, and we talked about it weeks ago on our live. What were our expectations were, and mine were, well, I know he's not going to get off to a hot start right away. If he did,
Mm-mm.
that would be fantastic, but that doesn't happen with guys that come back off their first Tommy John. Now we're talking about a guy that's coming back off his second Tommy John, hasn't pitched since June of 2022. I didn't necessarily think his start against the Rockies was necessarily bad. I thought the
No.
offense overshadowed the start more than anything, only able to score one run off a pitcher that had an ERA, I believe, over 5 or 8 runs, something like that. So something crazy. But, you know, I
Well,
think
I
the
mean, look.
Dodgers are going to be patient with him. And, like, I agree with you. I think by October, he'll be ready.
Look at his starts. I mean, he's pitching 6 innings. After his second Tommy John surgery. Where should he be pitching four? Should he be pitching three? Five? He's going deep into games. Off of his second, and that's why I say I'm not worried about him at all, man. He's going to come back, and I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, and then you look at another pitcher who I wrote about in Dodgers Beat, wrote an extensive article about him, and that's Gavin Stone. We saw him twice on these 6 games this past week. Each start was efficient, electric, and this guy, I believe, has just done a complete 180 compared to last year. He had an ERA at 9 last season. Now he has the lowest ERA on the staff. In his last 7 starts, he has a 1.64 ERA. He's gone at least 6 innings pitched every start over those, since April 26th, except today where he was only able to go 5. And that was just purely precautionary. The
Hmm.
age-old adage, oh, it's only 4 days rest, which makes me believe, probably we'll discuss it on this live later this week, that I think they're getting ready to go to a 6-man rotation. They already said
Yep.
Yamamoto is only going to be, going on more than like around 5 days, like 5 days rest, which would kind of put that in line. But I just think Gavin Stone has done every single thing he can this season to earn his keep. So I see a lot of people talking about it. I know how you feel about Bobby Miller. He's going to be activated soon, and the Dodgers are going to have a roster crunch. So if they don't go with a 6-man rotation, everybody's pointing the fingers at Gavin Stone being that odd man out, and I just don't see it. But I'm curious to see what your opinion would be. Like, do the Dodgers just say, "Hey, kid, like we want to keep your innings at a limit. We're either going to send you to AAA, only pitch every handful of days and then we'll call you back up when we need you, or do you think he's staying on the rotation?
I'm hoping he stays on the rotation. It's hard to say, what the front office wants to do, and and how they make their decisions in regards to the pitchers and personnel that's on the team. But I will say this, Gavin Stone is exactly the pitcher that myself, Tim Rogers, Casey Porter thought was going to be last year. He is the pit. This what you're seeing this year is what we thought was going to be coming. Last season it didn't happen. He struggled. I think coming up to the majors may have got to him a little bit. I think that's part of Miguel Vargas also. That happened to him also. His head got a little bit big. These are kids. They're in their 20s, in their mid to low 20s, and they're coming up into the major league, and a lot of spotlights on them, and how they react. I think we seen what it was. With Gavin's mentality and what he worked on at OKC last year, and coming up to the majors definitely shows. The pitches that he worked on, his curveball, his cutter, all that stuff, man. I think is. I'm not surprised about Gavin Stone this year. Like I said, this is the Gavin Stone that a lot of us thought was going to be the pitcher from last year.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you guys wanted a more in-depth breakdown, like I said, I wrote a pretty nice article kind of going
Mm-hmm.
over, his rise through the minor league ranks. He went from being drafted to getting called up to the majors really fast, and I feel like he got a reality check. And then I went over, what he did this offseason in terms of adding weight, kind of making sure that he stays healthy, and then kind of, I think the biggest change for him is that last season he really only had 2 to 3 pitches to rely on. This year he has around 5 to 6 pitches,
Mm-hmm.
according to Baseball Savant, and that changeup, sinker, and is a great combination to have. So I think he's gonna stay in the rotation. I think as smart as the Dodgers front office is, I think it would be pretty idiotic to just kick him out of the rotation. Not only to what it would do mentally to him, but kind of right now, like I talked with Clint Pazias about it, he is like the third best starter on the team. I would even argue that he's like inching up to like that second best starter on the team mentality, just the way he's been pitching these games. But I think the Dodgers right now, if they entered October with Glasnow, Yamamoto, and Stone, it's a pretty good top 3 of the order. And it's just the way Gavin Stone attacks, the lineups on opposing teams. So I'm
Well, I mean,
excited
you
to
look.
see what he does.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. We got Glass now, who's going to be the number one. Yamamoto number two. Um, God, why am I drawing? We're just talking about the guy, and I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Bueller?
Gavin Stone number three. You know, probably Miller number four. We got Bueller, and then we got Kershaw. That's coming back. The big question is how are they going to use Kershaw. Are they going to use him as a number 5 and number 6? Are they going to bring him in, to eat up innings in the reliever portion of it? You know, and then we got Paxton that's there. Is Paxton going to be the number 6? That's the big question that I have. Is how's Kershaw and how's Paxton going to be used? Because I think we have the 5 starters already. That's right there with Paxton there, and with Kershaw coming back. What's going to be their role? That's there. Who's going to be the number 6? And who's going to be the guy that's going to come in and do some relief? Say like Bobby Miller or Bueller starts to struggle, within the first couple of innings. Do we bring Kershaw in? Do we bring Paxton in instead of going into the relievers, super early?
Yeah. I mean, you segue to a perfect spot where we'll give a little bit of a health update. This past week, Clayton Kershaw took another major step in his
Mm-hmm.
recovery from his shoulder surgery. I wrote a couple weeks back in the beginning of May where he was starting to finally throw off the mound, throwing some couple bullpen sessions. And the next step after that, according to him and Dave Roberts, was to start to incorporate more off-speed pitches and then face live batters. Well, he ended up accomplishing that task, this past, I believe it was yesterday by the time we were recording this. And
Yep.
he ended up facing, I believe 4 hitters. Chris Taylor was among those. Kendall George was among the hitters as well. And he came out of it feeling healthy and fine. And I think the big thing about it is that the Dodgers are tracking him, for around a 6-week buildup, which I mean,
Hmm.
when Kershaw said when he got the offseason surgery and he said mid-July or mid-summer, I kind of was hesitant to say, I don't really know. But now it's looking like we're getting a clearer picture, and it looks like it's going to be a reality. So, by all indications, it looks like Kershaw is going to be activated either by late July or early August. So, how big of a boost is it to add Kershaw back where the rotation you already mentioned, it's really full right now. So the Dodgers are going to have to make a couple, choices with a roster crunch inevitably, and the trade deadline's coming up as well. But and first things first, just seeing Kershaw come back, how big of a boost is that for the team?
I think it's a big boost for the team. I mean, you got your franchise player, that's coming back, his leadership that's in the locker room, his leadership, with the pitchers. You talked to all the younger guys. I mean, I remember, last year, when Pepio and Gavin Stone, and Bobby Miller were all, in the locker room after they won the division series, that's there. And they said, yeah, Clayton Kershaw came up to us. It's that presence of him, especially for the younger generation that's coming up, and him building them, their confidence, and passing on the experience that he has to those players. And I think it's going to be a big benefit. And Yamamoto also. When Kershaw comes back, and him and Yamamoto can talk a little bit. Like I'm sure that they're doing right now because he's with the team, and give him some pointers, what it's like in the major leagues, and, calm him down a little bit, because there is a couple of things that are really surprising to me, about Yamamoto, if you want to get into that later.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of questions with Kershaw in terms of, him coming back and is it too soon and is he still going to have the stuff? But I think, morale wise, getting your left-handed Hall of Fame ace to come back, and for a last stretch run from August to hopefully a deep October run, I think that goes a long way. I'm confident that he's going to be fine. Last year, the velocity wasn't a factor in terms of him pitching well. A lot of people are throwing their arms up in the air that say, "Oh, he's only hit 88 miles per hour." I don't think many of these fans understand how long you have to build up your arm, over the course of a couple weeks. That's what spring training is for
Hmm.
guys. And so he's going to probably get up to, I would say, 90 to 91, 92 miles per hour, hopefully, but he still has the stuff.
I'm
In
actually
term,
surprised he's at 88 right now. I mean, that's
I
surprising to
I
me.
was a little surprised because I don't think people understand how serious a shoulder injury is,
Right.
especially at his age. And to not only just be throwing as quickly as he is and throwing off a mound, it is remarkable that he's made this recovery. And I think it's a testament to him because I think he doesn't want to go out how he went out last October. Embarrassed defeat and walking off the mound without even making it out of the first inning. And the
Well,
Dodgers share that same sentiment as well. They don't want another October like last season. So. Um, I'm excited
I
for him to come back.
I truly believe that this shoulder injury has been a couple years, and with it happening and the surgery that he got and what they did to it, it's going to be, it's not like, the Dodgers are going to put him as, the game one starter. He's going to come in and play his part and be the Clayton Kershaw, that a lot of us, I believe that a lot of us know. He's going to come in there, be productive, get outs, grind the game, lead the team, boost the team up when they need it, saying, hey, man, here I am. I'm showing what I can do, take my lead and follow it up, with some good pitching and some good play.
Yeah, and now we get to pivot, Mike, to the gloom side of the episode. And like I said, the Dodgers were going also with some happy beats. They're 5-6 over this past couple games. Kershaw's coming back in the future around the middle of July, August. But the big question mark right now is Max Muncy.
Hmm.
So a couple weeks ago, when Max Muncy originally injured his oblique, Dave Roberts and the Dodgers seemed like they weren't worried at all, saying that hopefully he could be back within 1 to 2 weeks. When I saw that tweet initially, I called bullshit on it just because I
Right.
understand I've seen oblique injuries in the past with some players, especially in baseball, where that's such an important muscle pretty much in anything you do baseball wise. Muncy was able to do some fielding work, but in terms of swinging a bat, which is what he's valued for, he hasn't been able to do anything. And he had another setback trying to take some swings in Arizona. He's pretty much out indefinitely with no baseball activities on his schedule. How big of a loss is Max Muncy, especially if he is out an extended period of time? Because obliques, they could either be a couple weeks, a couple months, or they can end your entire season. So the Dodgers, if they lose him, they're going to have to get to work. But first things first, what's your worry level about Muncy coming back sooner than later?
I think it's going to hurt the team a little bit, with his bat. Um, Again, with some of his leadership that he brings into the locker room, his presence that he has, his ability to, like the San Francisco series, the World Series, the playoffs. He's that guy who comes up and then all of a sudden just blasts a home run or blasts, a double, and comes out of nowhere and just, hits out. He's kind of like Kike was, and Chris Taylor, when he was hitting, back in the day. He's that presence, that's there. Max Muncy, and I'll raise my hand. I was one of the guys in the very beginning where it's just like going, man, I don't think he's a good third baseman, but he's proven a lot of people wrong. He's been able to, to take control of that hot corner and make some good plays, and and he has a very strong arm. He can get the ball across the field to first base. He does have good foot movement. He can move to side. He can't jump that high, but he ended up being a decent third baseman, and then all of a sudden he gets this oblique injury. Look at Ryan Pepio. Look what happened to him and how long he was out, with his oblique injury. Also, I think he was out like over 6 months, six or
Yeah.
7 months,
From the first
before.
month of the season until I think September. I think that's how
Yeah,
long he was out.
yeah, and so now we're looking at um, Max Muncy at that. So I think in my opinion, do the Dodgers make? I think they need to make adjustments in the batting order. The batting order set the way it is right now, but you're going to have to make some adjustments. You're going to have to move Shohei. You're going to have to move Freddie. You're going to have to move, Will Smith. We got some of the five of the top best hitters. You may have to move Teoscar a little bit, that's in there, and move things around to be able to make it a little bit more productive for the hitters. And kind of like we talked about earlier, is they're going to have to probably start playing some small ball. I mean, you look at today's game, is a perfect example of that. You have Pages that comes in there, does a line drive 2 times. You have Miguel Vargas comes in, and then you have Kike comes in and hits a good line drive. And those guys are all at the bottom of the order. And then what happens? When we start getting into innings 5, 6, 7, they start swinging for the fences again. They don't keep that momentum going and that mentality of put the ball in the field, because it is my job to get on base, to get moved and score runs.
Yeah, and I think Muncy is a big part of the lineup struggles.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are going to say, well, how can a lineup with, three of the best hitters of our generation atop the order struggle at all? And if you want to have that argument, you just really don't understand, the complexity of a Major League Baseball lineup. It's 1 through 9 guys. And
Mm-hmm.
Muncy was a big part of the middle of that order, whether he was batting mostly fifth or sixth. So that's adding
Right.
extra oomph to the latter half of your lineup. So the Dodgers are missing that. Kike, I know he's a fan favorite. He plays really good defense. He can hit, clutch moments when he comes up in that spot. But over a course of a 162, he's just not a guy I want to be starting every day. Chris Taylor is a guy that's kind of just in a funk. Probably going to be hard for him to escape from that for a whole collective season. Miguel
Mm-hmm.
Vargas, for however good he wants to play, this is definitely going to be a video or an article for another day. The Dodgers just seem to not want to give him any starts at all, especially since he's had a 960 OPS since being called up.
Right.
But it just seems like Muncy is, I would say, the glue that makes this Dodgers lineup works. Not only does he have the ability to hit power, he has the ability to get on base via the walk. He has his baseball IQ in terms of reading pitchers definitely goes a long way when you're talking to, the players in the dugout and they're reading, the pitcher's hand, the tendencies. Muncy's one of those guys that can see that extra well, and to not have him in the lineup every single day, having his eyes seeing these pitchers every single day, and we like to give him a lot of crap defensively, but he made a lot of strides this season. I do think he
Oh,
looks
definitely.
way better than he has in years past. So
No
it's
doubt
going to be
about
a
it.
big. It's going to be a big piece. The Dodgers, this is definitely going to be something we're going to be ramping up, whether it's on the Bleed Lows podcast or on Dodgers Beat with our articles. But the trade deadline's coming up, and if Muncy has
Hmm.
another setback, the Dodgers are short a third baseman, and in a trade market that is very, very iced thin, the Dodgers are going to have to get creative because I really think, pitching wise, they're fine. They need to get an outfielder and an infielder to solve the bottom of the order, their struggles there. So that'll definitely be previewing, what the Dodgers are going to be doing these next couple months.
I think the Dodgers have, I don't want to say a solution, but they have a player that's playing for Oklahoma right now. And if they can get him on the 40-man roster and bring him up, Andre Lipsius, and see what he can do. He's got major league experience when he was with, I think it was Detroit.
Yep,
You know,
Tigers.
he played with them, for a couple months. So it's not like he doesn't have major league experience. He's raking in really good, with Oklahoma, and bring the guy up. You know, he is a natural third baseman. He can move. He's got a great arm. He's got a really good bat. He can hit for power. He's like Max Muncy, but he's at a younger age. And he's a better fielder. But I would love to see them bring him up, and give him a shot to see what he can do. Is that going to be the answer? No, but is that going to give Max Muncy more time to be able to rehab, and be able to bring him back? And if we don't and that's the balance, what if he doesn't come back by October, and we miss the trade line, did the Dodgers mess up on that, when they could have won after a third baseman? Those are all the questions.
Yeah, and Andrew Freeman unfortunately has the answers, and he keeps all that stuff close to his chest.
Right.
Closing out the episode, Dodgers got a really big road trip coming up. They're going on the East Coast again. Very tough for these West Coast teams to go across, pretty much the entire country. However, they're facing a young Pittsburgh Pirates team that recently has gotten some oomph in their starting rotation with the call up of Spencer Strider and Jared Jones, who has been going off for them as well this year. The Dodgers, unfortunately, are going to see both of those arms in Pittsburgh this week. In Pittsburgh, an area, for whatever reason, over the past 5 or 6 years, they have not played well at PNC Park.
No,
Maybe they're just taken aback by the gaze of that view in that beautiful stadium.
exactly.
Then, right after that, they go straight to New York, and probably the first marquee matchup that I would say most eyes will be on, and that is between the Dodgers and the Yankees, just because, how iconic the franchises are. Both teams are playing well, and a lot of star power in, this weekend series. And just looking at it, they got the Friday night game on Apple TV.
Mm-hmm.
They got the Fox Friday night game, or the Saturday night game, and they got ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. So obviously MLB wants all eyes to be on this series. However,
Oh, yeah.
I'll ask you, which series, depending just because of different onset of what we're seeing, the younger Pirates and then the powerhouse Yankees, which one are you more looking forward to watching?
I'm looking forward to seeing, what they can do, in Pirate Stadium. Like you said, they have struggled, in years past. That's there. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think they're going to come out of there, with winning 2 games. I think they'll win the series, 2 games out of 3. I'm really looking forward to the Yankees game. This is going to be the big test for the team, and this is going to be the big thing to see. Okay, I think this is what the front office and upper management's going to look at and say, okay, we are short here, and they're going to really get to see, where their shortcomings are at with this team. Is it really truly the bottom of the lineup, or are these guys just really not, hitting very well? Do we really need an outfielder? Is Pages doing, fine? Is Jason Hayward, you know, what is his status? Is he going to be able to work out? Is Chris Taylor going to be able to work out? Excuse me. And let's not forget, James Outman is really starting to hit again, down in Oklahoma. And he's starting to find that swing and he's starting to get his power back, and he's always been a very solid center fielder, especially for the team. Where does that factor in? For that, do they bring him back up to get his back activated once again? I think the Yankee series is going to be a big moment for this Dodger team to see who's going to stay and who's going to go.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard because I would say if any other arms were starting for the Pirates, this series would have just been wish-wash. Another series in June against, a young up-and-coming Pirates team that has a lot of talent that's on the outset. They're looking to make the postseason in the next year or two, but not this year. But because of the arms they're facing, Jared Jones has been really good this season, despite his 3-5 record. He is a very power pitcher. Dodgers, you guys should understand any arm can beat this lineup. That's just how baseball works. And then you get Paul Skeens, who I'm a big LSU fan, so kind of seeing him transition from college to the majors pretty seamlessly. Not going to say I told you so, but I knew that was going to happen.
No,
But to see both of these guys, I think that's going to be a test for the Dodgers lineup. But in terms of the entire roster, in terms of defense, pitching, and then bullpen, I think the Dodgers should take care of business despite the arms they're facing in Pittsburgh. I really think they'll probably take 2 out of 3. I wouldn't be surprised if they do, in fact, sweep if they can get to Paul Skeens. And that's really, for him, that's going to be a big test. Out of all the teams he's faced the Cubs twice, and I don't think he's really faced much a team over 500 yet. So I think him facing the Dodgers, he's definitely going to be amped up for that as well. But how can you not look at this Yankees series coming up? Because this is kind of what I've said, after last year's World Series teams, and it's no disrespect to them, but the ratings were just down, unfortunately. And I feel like MLB is pushing this series because this is the series. These are the 2 teams you want if you're Major League Baseball in the World Series, the 2 biggest franchises in the sport right now. And with all the power, this could be a preview to October in the World Series. And I think the Dodgers, a lot of people are going to tell you Yankees may blow this team away. The Yankees are probably going to steamroll the Dodgers just because of the way, we've been playing inconsistent baseball. But looking in the potential, pitching matchups for the series, and obviously anything can change due to injury or setbacks or anything. Yamamoto, again, Stone, and Glasnow. That should be your 3 that you're going to be seeing in October, regardless if nothing else changes. And I would take those 3 against any other 3. And I know the Yankees, they have a very low team ERA. They have a very elite bullpen. And Aaron Judge has seemingly awoken from his slumber this month,
right?
This past May, pretty much going from bad April to top 3 MVP candidate overnight. So the Dodgers are going to have their handful. It's going to be a really interesting series. And I'm looking forward to this matchup, and it's going to be good.
I think this matchup is going to be, just like you said, this is going to be the preview of the World Series of 2024. Could very well be this, these 2 teams that are in here. And honestly, I think we're going to see a different Dodger team, when they go to New York. I think they're going to step their game up. They're going to come out with some fire, and they're actually going to come out and play the way. I truly believe, just like, Dave Roberts said, I think it was last night or the night before, you haven't seen, the Dodgers play it, or, you haven't really seen the team play to their capability yet. And I truly believe that. I think that there's some things that they're holding back on, that they're just not gelling at. I just don't know what it is. But I think this team, I don't think Dodger fans has really seen the best of this team yet. And I think we will see a glimpse of it when they go to New York.
Yeah, Mike, I'll 100% agree with you. I don't think this team has hit their stride yet. Hopefully going to New York, hopefully they show up for the moment, hopefully they show up for the lights, because this is a different Dodgers team and they just need to show it. But other than that, that has been the latest episode of the Bleed Lows podcast, this weekly rewind edition. We're going to have a live this week. We're going to have a special guest for Friday right before the Yankees series, so be sure to subscribe. hit the notification bell. Make sure you're staying up to date for everything on the YouTube channel side of things. In terms of the website, Dodgers Beat, we are on a groove right now. We're getting at least 1 to 2 articles a day. Mike has been giving a lot of information on minor league baseball on Fridays and Saturdays, kind of giving us the outlook of what their week was like. And be sure to follow us on social media. We got both of our, Twitter handles or X handles, whatever you want to call it, down below. Mike's always tweeting about Dodgers baseball. I'm always tweeting about anything. As if anyone wants to shoot me a question, I'll make sure to reply. But yeah, it's an exciting week of Dodgers baseball. I think this is probably one of the bigger weeks for the team, and that Yankee series, we'll definitely talk about more on this week's live. Looking for Wednesday on that. It's going to be a really big week. But Mike, any closing words before we get out of here?
Just like you said, I'm really excited for the Yankee game, for that series to come out. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. No matter what happens, it's still going to be a lot of fun, and the Dodgers are going to see what they're really made of. I'm just hoping Shohei Ohtani shows up because he hasn't been showing up lately.
Yeah,
So
hopefully we get some showtime, but that'll do it from us here. I'm
him
Cody.
against Aaron
That's
Judge.
Mike. Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani. Like I said, big star power matchup there.
Exactly.
So it'll be a great series. But other than that, that is everything, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
This episode has been brought to you by BetOnline. The game starts here.